We are here today with my friend Casey Artemenko, who, again, the world is so small when you boil down to the salt of autism parents. Casey and I actually connected through a college friend of mine, which also reminds me that there are many paths and there's many things that are in the cards well before I even realized that profound autism was going to be the hat that I wore as a parent. Casey is a mother of 4 and her son Blue has autism like Millie and Mac. We live very parallel lives here in Central Jersey. What I wanted to share about our combined story is that the dynamics of a family when profound autism enters the equation is just as profound as the diagnoses. So Casey, welcome to Inchstones today.
Thank you. So I was in the car like half hour ago with my 2 oldest kids who are boy-girl twins, and they're 3 years older than Blue. And I was picking them up from swim and I was on a call about Blue. And so they got into the car and were quiet, except for the fact that I had forgotten to pre-order their pliables. So I did that and then they shut up and they listened to this call. And when it was over, I started crying. And I said, guys, like, these are happy tears. These are not unhappy tears. I just met someone who I think could really be helpful to Blue. And sometimes we have to talk to 1,000 people to get to somebody who's going to be helpful. And I'm pretty open with my emotions, and my kids are very aware of what we go through with Blue, right? He lives in our house. But anyway, that just happened this morning, like Monday morning, first week of everybody in camp, not at school. And now here I am with you. And they were asking me, well, how do you know Sarah? And I said, well, through our friend Laurie. And they said, well, you owe Laurie a big thank you. And then they said, and I better get a shout out. So Willie and Dabney, here you go. So there you go. So now I'm done and we can do anything else. Yeah, Dabney said, some days I take care of Blue more than you do. You can say that out loud.
That's wonderful. And own that, Dab.
It's true. I mean, it's totally true. Yeah, Sarah, you asked me, what do I want my title to be on this? And that's a big question. It's a good question. What do I want my title to be? I mean, I don't know. Like, this is a role that we did not choose, that you could not predict. Like, I've said many times, like, if you had asked me 15 years ago what I wanted my future to be, I would have said, stay in the city, keep working, and have 1 kid at a time. And I didn't get any of those things. And I'm perfectly happy. But you have to adjust and move on, right? And
agility is something that I wish every family, school district, counselor, therapist talked more about, because we now have agility to work through that. You have the capacity to call 1,000 people to find the right care and be overwhelmed with emotion and happy that you found it. And that's grit. Right? It's like you can't purchase that. You can't say, oh gosh, I wish I had more grit about this. I wish I had more agility. You have to do it.
No, you can't. My twins were very premature and they were very weak when they were born.
Yeah.
And I was so not in control of that situation. And it was the first time in my life where I really, I could not dwell on it, right? My parents are so steadfast to me and adjust around me to help me for my whole life. But they were the worriers. And I was like, I just have to put my head down and have faith and one step in front of the other, right? And to bring home 2 medically fragile babies at the same time, I didn't have time to worry about it. I just couldn't. And, Dabney was on a heart monitor for, 8 months. And Willie, so respiratory week that he was in the PICU for every winter for 3 years. And you don't have time to feel sorry for yourself. You just don't. Right. And so then by the time I had Blue, that's my 4th kid in 3 years. You really don't have time for anything. But I knew when I had Blue that he was not the same as my other kids. We knew it immediately in the NICU. One of those nurses said to me, Casey, this baby does not behave like a 35-weeker of yours. She'd seen 3 of them in the last year and a half. Yeah. So we knew, but nobody would listen to me. And so I think in the first year of Blue's life, I took him to 21 specialists and just nobody would listen to me. My mother-in-law is a speech pathologist. He vocalized, Casey, you recognize he's not even babbling. I said, you're right. He's not. We had him in private speech at 10 months old. He was in as many as 10 therapies a week before he was 1. And we just went from there.
So I think about two things that just arose in you sharing that. One, mother's intuition. I believe it should be seen as a data point. There was an innate knowing that I had of a pattern recognition. And I believe that science is pattern. Science is proving that there's a pattern to something, and we say this qualifies for X qualifies for this diagnosis. Patterns recognized, I believe, is mother's intuition. Do you believe that the pattern of your own body, almost realizing that you had to do the next right thing for the twins, gave you the skill set to do that for Blue?
Again, not by choice, not the title I wanted, right?
Right. But your body got primed.
Yeah, I mean, I can do the bare minimum, meaning I can check everything off the list and get it all done. Is my house still going to be a mess? Yeah. Am I ever going to get to clean out the bin of hockey uniforms that we don't wear anymore? No, probably not. It's just you have to prioritize and force rank, and your kids are always going to be first, right? And I'm a list maker. I'm a paper list maker. I went to a girls' school in Summit called Kent Place that produces hyper organized taskmasters. And I remember my Filofax was my
yes,
be all end all in high school. And now I carry around a paper notebook because I still have to write out my list. And yeah, when you force rank all those things, you run out of time, right?
Right.
You and I are here. I sometimes have to write shower on my list, or it doesn't happen. You lose that time if it's not pre-planned. Yeah. So
I'm very aware of that. I don't know if you feel that the inability to press pause even for 5 minutes on the ticking of time sometimes I'll be honest, I can become debilitated by that.
Yeah, calendar anxiety is real.
Mm-hmm.
And there will be times where, you get invited to something and it's something fabulous that you want to go to, but the invite comes in at a time where you're just maxed out and you're like, I say no to everything right now, right?
Right. How does that straddle your emotional desires just as Casey and as a mom?
Well, I guess one of the ways that I've really tried to parent my other kids is to recognize that it's not their choice that I had 4 kids in 3 years, and it's not their choice that I have one kid that requires more attention than the others. So if my kids want to do something, I say yes at all times. So that calendar gets prioritized again over mine.
What do you think other mothers would understand about that prioritizing and what that looks like when a child like Blue, Millie, or Mac is not the first, is not the second? He comes before, other siblings. He came into a family that your twins didn't come into. Right?
Right. I think that the greatest gift that I have given Blue is Willie and Dabney and Turner.
Absolutely.
And if I could have 5 more kids, I would for Blue, right? My job is to surround Blue with people who love him. And I think that actually, as a special needs mom, it is the hardest piece of advice that I could give another mom is have another kid if you can, have more if you can, because what you have is all consuming, but the capacity to love and be a part of something bigger and a family is so valuable. I was told I couldn't carry more children after Blue, so that was the end of that. But I'm just grateful every day that he has Willie and Dabney and Turner. And, it's funny, Dabney and Willie, Dabney started in private school this year, and Willie is going to private school in the fall. And so I've just gone through the application process for the last 2 years. And you have to write a parent statement about your child. And
parent statements, we know nothing about that.
Right. And so, but I've done it for one kid, but I hadn't done it for these 2. And I thought, it's impossible to speak about either of my children without giving the context of Blue, because it's so central and innate to their home life and who they are as people, right? And so the level of empathy that my children have is something that you wouldn't wish on somebody for these circumstances, or that you couldn't predict, but it comes from living what they live every day in their home.
Correct. And I think that's something that I would never, again, I had envisioned this set of sisters when I realized I was pregnant with Millie, when Morgan was 2.5, and these pigtailed little blonde girls running around, Central Park and the zoo was it was happening. We were going to the Brownstone School, and we were moving along down this life that I had completely fabricated in my mind. I would never have chosen it. And yet what Morgan will get to become because of their siblings, I know that 99% of their peers are going to hit strides in things in life that are going to grate against their ability to have an emotional capacity that is already innate in those three that I just mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
And
true.
they will have some sort of resilience, some sort of ability to have a macro view on life that will allow for some things to probably beat off a little bit easier.
So not only do our kids have that, Sarah, but I have this self-awareness of how that actually has helped me as a person,
Absolutely. Oh,
right? So Willie and Dabney and Turner play a bunch of sports, and we live in an area where people care a lot about youth athletics, and
absolutely.
that could be a podcast for another day.
Yeah.
But parents who put so much value in these sports, I know myself well enough to know I could be completely caught up in that and have a loss of perspective and be a different parent than I am. If I had 4 kids like my first 3, I might be pressing, counting accolades. And thank God for Blue, because he is my reminder of perspective, but he has made me better, and I'm able to parent the other kids because of that.
I think the idea that we are so fully whole just in who we are, and then we're birthed into a family, and that he is 100% his sibling's brother, it is never going to be able to become divorced from that reality. I did not grow up with a sibling with profound special needs. So just the idea that I was in my third decade of life, it's harder to change that. So our children actually are getting a perspective that's becoming more, you want to talk science, like that's becoming coded in their wiring.
Look, like having to tell your child no is not a bad thing,
Yeah.
right? And kids get it, right? Like my daughter was invited down to the shore today, and that's a really lovely invitation with her friends. And I can't get her there. And I said, no, I cannot get you there. I'm sorry. Like summer school starts today for Blue, and I can't be on the road. Like I have to be near to home. And new things and transitions are hard. And she just said, okay. She fights me on some things, but she understands that, and that's hard. Saying no to our kids is not a bad thing. Like my husband, Billy, always says that the hardest thing we have to do as parents is to say no when we don't have to. And what he means by that is we have the ability to offer our children everything. We are extremely fortunate. We live in an area where everything is accessible to them.
Yep.
And saying no by choice is a hard thing to do.
You mentioned that your husband's leadership in that capacity. How has your marriage been led by Blue?
Again, he didn't choose it. We adjust. It's a reminder that I tell my children all the time, like when things get really hard with Blue, and you have these like stretches of good, and then like something will happen. It's usually something public in the community that sets you back. And that's difficult to process, and you have to work through it, and your kids are aware of it. In those moments, I remind my children how much harder this situation would be if your father wasn't my person, if we didn't have each other. And also people don't want to talk about it, but like money, right?
Yeah.
If you were a parent of special needs and you didn't have the ability to have childcare so you can take a break, or outsource things that you really don't want to do so you can be with your child, or find advocates beyond yourself for your kid, I just cannot imagine how hard that would be.
That's one of my biggest missions, and all of people have been saying to me recently, well, what do you really want to do? I mean, you're sitting here able to host a podcast, and I have been probably overcompensating and checking my privilege in that capacity, going, yeah, I'm able to press pause for a few hours a day to do this because I have the system set in place, and because I have the ability to outsource childcare, respite care, people to be on that team and specialized care. I would love there to be more acknowledgement from a society standpoint for people that can't afford that. Like, I mean, when you talk about historically, I mean, it's guttural. My mouth like flushes with saliva to say this. in reality, children like Millie and Mac were put away. They were put away, or they were at least acknowledged to the sense of like, if you can't pay for the one-on-one privatized care, 1960s or 70s, like that's the only option. And I, when you put them back in the home where they should be, and they always should be, we have to acknowledge from a society standpoint that not everyone is going to be able to have their central nervous system calmed by an extra set of hands. And then you think about the onboarding. I mean, you and I have talked about this before. It's not just as easy as calling up the sitter that's 16 years old down the street to help with Blue. That's not reality. That's actually safety. I mean, that's a life and death thing for you and I.
Yeah.
And to know that that is a part of this broader conversation that I'm hoping to really push forward is that the option for the advocate, the option for the respite care, the option for the therapies that might not seem as mainstream for autistic children, but you know in your gut that you want to give it a try for your child. I think that that should be available. I just do. I think that that should be available to all.
Yeah. I mean, we get our like once annual check-in call from Union County.
Yeah.
Making sure that we're aware of all the services.
Right.
At the like invariably at the end of the call, the person who means well says, "Wow, well, you've taught me a few things today," and you're like, "Yeah, right." And that's a tricky thing, right? Like, I have not been able to have any government services or assistance work for us because I just like I quit on the paperwork. I'm just like I can't do this. It just shuts me down. I just don't have the ability to do it anymore, right? And so like respite care doesn't even work for us because, I don't have a family member who would take money for Blue or has the time to do that. That's just not the way my family operates. My family helps me all the time, but not on a paid regular schedule. And then some of the people that help me who are incredible with Blue, this is a different topic, might not be legal in this country and then can't get respite care because we've got to deal with the government again. And so you end up in this spiral. So you just walk away from it.
You walk away and say, what can I control? The power of it all is that you do have to choose where your bandwidth is and what you can control. And the soundtrack I always just like play in my head is if there's an option to try and I have the ability to attempt it with Millie and Mac, there is nothing that's holding me back from doing that. And I'm not looking for it to be a fix. I think I'm constantly looking to reorient my children's ability to push forth within their own minds and bodies.
Every special needs mom is taxed to their limit, right? And yet, if they meet someone else, there is a level of understanding and respect, but also prioritization of if this person calls me, like I'm there, right? And I even saw that when the twins were born, because of how needy they were, because of how long they were in the hospital, people started proactively reaching out. Can I be helpful with this experience, right? And like I receive a Christmas card every year from someone who has twins, and every year she writes the same thing. I will never forget how good to me you were when my kids were in the hospital. And like, I don't even remember it. But there are people in my life who have been so supportive and their children's needs are different than mine, but like we have a connection, right? So, you live in Westfield and I grew up in Westfield, and a couple of my closest friends are moms like that, and their daughters are in their 20s now. But that is something like we had a really negative experience. I should say Blue is amazing right now and we're in a good spot.
Yeah.
But there was a really negative experience that happened recently in public and I wasn't there. He was with Billy and Willie and Dabney. Turner and I were coming back from some tournament. I don't even know what sport, but we were going to meet them at dinner. And when we got to the restaurant, they were already gone. And so we came home and my husband had completely shut down, like went to bed, couldn't talk. And that is what I do when it hurts so much. Right. But this was a different experience for me. I was angry. I was really, really angry to see my loved ones hurting. Right.
Yeah.
And then like we were in like a spiral of like 2 bad days with Blue. And I finally called my friend and said, like, yesterday was so shitty. And I wanted to call you to come. I was going to come to you. Her daughter's less mobile than Blue. I was going to come to you and have a drink because I just needed it, but I couldn't talk.
Yeah.
And she said, I wish you had called me and you could have just shown up and had the drink and not talk.
I mean, I think back about you strike a chord of 2 episodes that I recorded with my best friend, who I said she didn't even do anything. All she did was say, I'm here. That's it. She never, when she reflects upon those moments that still happen, she lives far away. But when you share like that, it's a reminder that it's not about the conversation that transpires from, I just need to be in your presence. And it personifies the unspoken connection of, see you, this looks really hard. I have no idea what you are feeling, but I see the depth of what that pain looks like. And that is, again, you cannot put a price on that.
My parents, like, one example of how they adapt to support me is, they used to live right here. We moved here to be near to them. And now they're in Florida for the winter. And my mom's like, I feel left out. I need to know what's going on.
Wow.
And I was able to articulate that it's what we talked about. I can get through the day. I can manage. I can compartmentalize. I can check things off the list, and I can process and move forward. But I cannot recount it all,
Yes.
because that hurts too much. I can't
Yes.
do it all. And so they have come to accept that I can't share. Sometimes I just can't. And so then, we go to Florida and we go a lot because their home, they have set it up so that we are comfortable. Blue is happy, and they just take care of me. They cook for me. They clean up after my kids. They play with him. And I can just sit there. And even then, when I'm in their presence, they don't make me talk because it's just too much sometimes.
Yeah. And and I think that moving through reality without having to communicate actually is this funny byproduct of having, well, specifically Millie and Mac, who really don't use, like verbal communication, that it reminds me that we people that have the ability to speak and talk and communicate, we don't even need to sometimes. We should rely on the fact that our presence alone is worthy of being seen, understood, and that we're still going to be loved for that. And they see how much we're doing. I always take like a deep, deep breath especially when my dad's around, because he leans in so big with Mac. And as a man with his grandson, and seeing him just be with him, knowing that I am his therapy, is like, I can't purchase that. I can't buy that. All I can say is like, thank you to my parent, my dad, for that. And I mean, I sometimes text them, thank you so much. Like, I love seeing Max smile with you. You know what I mean? It is something that, to just be in the space of someone who goes, we don't have to talk about this.
Yeah.
I'm going to love on them for just them being there. And then the byproduct is that you get to sit down.
I try to think about the positives all the time and like how supported I am and how I can help Blue. Mm-hmm. But I was thinking, one of my closest friends, I say to her, your generosity is so immense, and it's not just money. It's like, I will take care of the logistics for you. Mm-hmm. And then you decide, like, she will say, let's go away for the weekend. And then the next thing will be, you decide. Bring kids, don't bring kids, bring which kids, bring help, don't bring help, and then everything else I'll figure out, right? So she's like, whatever makes you comfortable in this moment is what I want for you. Like, that is generosity of spirit.
Was that Lori? That sounds like Lori. That's what Lori does.
It's not, but it could be. But I am so fortunate to be surrounded with a bunch of friends like that. Yeah, no, like to have people in your life like that, or to people who say, well, Blue's part of our family. Of course he comes here, right? Like a couple of my friends, I will take Blue to their houses.
Yes.
A few of them, right? Because he feels comfortable. And some of these houses are super nice. And I don't feel stressed there that he's going to break something or mess it up. Or I just don't, because of who my friends are. Yeah. They are my friends for a reason. And it's not their nice houses. It's their hearts, right?
Absolutely their hearts. I never, ever, ever would have been able to know the depth of some of my friends' hearts had it not been for what life has given to me. Maybe there would have been a different curveball. I laugh that my postpartum experience, I thought was going to be the hardest part of my life. I mean, I was like, gosh, I really got through the hard. I really showed up for that. I figured that out. I mean, the universe was laughing. I thank you for your vulnerability and sharing about this. I think that who you are has been augmented by being Blue's mom, because you get to model. And I think that modeling, more than any words, any podcast, anything that's spoken out loud, is so much more important and resonant to your other children out in the community, to those friends and their families, that's going to come back in a way that I hope that you feel just so loved and supported for being Blue's mom.
Thank you. Blue's a lucky boy. And we are all so fortunate to have you, Sarah, because you're spending your time that could be your own doing this to help other people. So thank you.
Absolutely. And I think again, I try to lean in as authentically. This is something that I feel so innately called to do. If you do not do that, you are pushing down what you're meant to do on this earth. And that's what I just always come back to is I feel so driven to do this. And so thank you for being a part of it. And thank you for being a part of my world. And we'll thank Lori too. We'll thank and you're and Dabney and Dabney.
Yes. Thanks, Lori.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for helping out. All right. Well, until next time on the Inchstones podcast.